welcome you to the celebration of Frank Pinckney's life. I have a short ceremony that I would like to offer to his friends and family for the sake of being able to participate in sharing a story. So I will begin. If anyone cares to know, my name is Diana Douglas, and I knew Frank for 28 years. Today we remember a friend, a father, a brother, an uncle, a grandfather, a loving man, a kind soul, a highly intelligent man, a handyman, a gentleman. Frank Pinckney was my friend, and I'm here to share his story with you. At the end, I ask any of you who have a positive and loving story to come up and light a candle to Frank and how his light touched your heart. Frank Pinckney was taken from his family unexpectedly on November 24, 2018. He was born on Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield, California on November 11, 1960, but was raised in the United Kingdom in a town called Kings Clear. His mother's name was Erica Ann, and his father was Willis Pinckney. Frank moved to Fort Bragg at 17 years old after the kids in the home he was living in pooled their money to buy him a ticket to the U.S. Frank found his new U.S. family in 1987 when he met Tracy Dieters and her two small children and eventually married in 1993. They raised the children together until they were both grown, and Frank continued to be a huge part of their lives until his passing. He is survived by his two children, Jasmine Barreto, Carl Stover Jr., his grandchildren, Jayla Peterson, Kyra Barreto, Noah Stover, as well as his siblings, Cillian Hall, Leah Hall, Stephen Pinckney, his nephews James Hall, Kyle Pinckney, Thomas Pinckney, Travis Pinckney, and niece Alicia Harbron. Frank was a longtime resident of Fort Bragg before moving to Eureka, where he had a successful handyman business called Fix-It Frank. He was known as a brilliant carpenter and was friends to many in the Humboldt community. He was fond of motorcycles, fast cars, tinkering, and had a deep love for animals, but mostly he loved the ladies. Frank had a treasured cat named Beavis, whom he loved dearly for 15 years. Frank was a dear friend and a great teacher. He was meticulous in his work and successful at fixing just about anything. Frank loved the Mendocino coast and the warm waters of the Hawaiian Islands. He was described as larger than life and a ladies' man. He was most proud to be known as Papa Frank and Uncle Frank. It was at a circle more than 20 years ago that he approached me about doing a farewell blessing for a grove of trees that were slated to be cut down by the landlord. We did as he wished, and I've never seen a man so profoundly connected to the earth and the trees before. I shall never forget that day and the tears we were all crying for the earth. Frank, I bless you for this light. He always bid farewell by saying, love and light. I'd like to call Cillian Hall up.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the memorial service for Frank Edward Pinckney, who is a brother to Lee, Stephen, and myself, as well as a stepson, half-brother, father, and a much-loved friend. We all have our memories and anecdotes which, if we all told them, we would probably be here for many days. We would like to just share a few. Frank was only 11 months older than Stephen and I, so we did everything together, plus a few other children that lived in the nearby lane. Lee was 3.5 years older and always did her own thing. We would always be outside in the woods or on the farm when we lived in Kingsclear. We would play in the hay barn until the farmer shouted and said he would spray us with the water hose to get us out. We would hide and stay put. The farmer would eventually give up and continue his work. We snuck into the chicken pens, and Frank and Stephen found out how many chickens they could put in one cage. They got caught. We even played in the cowsheds, probably caused a little bit of damage, but it was all good fun, and Frank was always our fearless leader. On Saturdays, we were all taken by our mother to the Saturday morning cinema, where we had loads of fun, games, and if it was your birthday, you got to go on stage. All the kids would sing happy birthday, and you were given a birthday present. We did this while our mother went shopping. Afterwards, we would go to the local fish and chip restaurant for lunch. We were well-behaved kids in those days, but once back home, we would be back out into the woods playing. We had a favourite tree where we would swing out into the road. It was a private road, so not many cars. But boy, did we would we get into trouble for that one. But we would go out again and see what other adventures we could have. We loved the outdoors. One by one, we moved to Lakenheath to join our father. Frank and Stephen started to get their own friends, and so did I. This one day, though, Frank decided we should go and fly a kite. We put loads of tinfoil on for the tail and had loads of fishing line. It was a perfect day to fly a kite, and the kite kept going up and up, and we kept adding more and more line. Eventually, it was a speck in the sky. Next thing, loads of military police came by and told us all off. Our kite was interfering with the radar. Frank got the blame, as he was the eldest, but it was good fun. The family started to drift apart, not quite sure where our sister went to live. I went to live with my English grandmother. Frank went to live near Cambridge in a children's home, and Stephen came to Fort Bragg with our father. Frank and I saw a lot of each other in the school holidays at our mother's house. It was here I had to play on Frank's huge motorcycle, as a Zuki 100. It was his first bike and it was big to me. I remember having a ride on his bike in the garden when he asked me to get off. I said, just one more try, and went straight into the wall. After the hospital trip, we came up with a story to tell our mother that the dog jumped on me and pushed me into the wall. She never believed us. Frank never forgave himself for letting me ride his bike, as I ended up with 27 stitches on my chin. He always wanted to protect me. Frank and I went on several New Year's party boats from England to Belgium. We came back with bruises on our legs from doing the Oops Upside Your Head song, those that can remember it. He used to chase after the girls on board, and I would eventually find him when it was time to get off. I am thankful for coming over a few years ago when I looked after my father, our father, and Frank stayed with us. We had 3 weeks of talking, mostly about the past, catching up on our lives, my family, and also about his family, Jasmine and Jayla. He was so proud of you both and showed me many photos. It was a very special 3 weeks. Frank was a tall man, 6'4" in his youth. Stephen used to say to him, "How's the air up there?" Stephen always said, being my big brother's little brother has always been a looking up experience. Everyone looked up to Frank, literally. Words cannot convey the loss of a sibling, a father, a confidant, and a friend. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
This is a time for anyone who has a loving or touching or funny story to come up and share now. You don't have to be shy. I am a shy person and I can do this, okay?
I'm Sherry, and as Frank and many of you know, I was his first girlfriend when he came from England. And this is my son Ivan, and I have a daughter, Annette, and he lived with us on 32750 Happy Lane, and this is really hard to do. Really hard to do. Frank and I both went our separate ways, and he lived with Tracy and helped raise the kids. And I married a man named Mark and moved to Oregon, and we were together 19 years. And then when we all went our separate ways, Frank and I came back together as friends about 15 years ago. And we've been each other's rock ever since. I miss him so much. We talk 3 and 4 days a week. And I know how much he would just love having all of you here and appreciate it, because Frank was the most loving man. So my son, I'm kind of sick, but my son encouraged us that we needed to come down, so we rented a car yesterday and drove down from Oregon. But I'm so happy to see all of your faces. It's just incredible. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Halls, and I'm Frank's nephew. I would like to say a couple things about my Uncle Frank. I love him, I miss him, and I'm hurt just as everybody else is. And Frank helped more or less mold me into who I am as a man. He played a big father figure in my life, with music and cars and the outdoor life and with the ladies. And
How many kids you got?
he might have helped me too much. 5. But no, and I got 2 of my oldest daughters here, and it's the positive side of this is we're all here together.
Amen. Yes.
And you know, I'd like to hear a little bit of everybody's stories if you have any, and he'll be greatly missed. Hi, guys. And love and light. All right, guys.
Hi, my name is Trudy, and I was been friends with Tracy since she was 16 years old. So I met Frank through Tracy, and Frank was such a stand-up guy, and I was very blessed to know him. I used to come to visit them in Eureka over the years. He always made me feel so welcome, and always tried to make my time there really fun and exciting, whether it was driving in his Dodge Stealth really fast down the highway, or four-wheel driving on the beach with his little multi-truck. There was 2 or 3 different types of truck with four-wheel drive on the beach. We'd go looking for sand dollars, but he was always so gracious to me, and he was a real rock, steady rock for Jasmine and stuff. And anyway, I really loved him a lot, like a brother.
Thank you.
So I knew Frank Pinckney for my entire life. Called him Uncle Frank Pinckney. Love him still. He and my dad were really good friends. My dad actually went all the way to Hawaii with him to help him with the business when he was out there. And he was there for a lot of firsts for me. He was actually there for my first time I ever shot a gun. You know, my first time getting in a car that could go over 80 miles an hour. You know, I just remember the car that could change colors, and just when I was a kid, he always had the coolest video games and was just the greatest role model to have, and I'll miss him greatly.
Somebody must have a happy story. It's gonna take them a minute to get out of here. You got it, Trudy.
So Frank wasn't just my uncle. He was like a father figure. He was like my best friend. I was one of the lucky ones to own the Dodge Stealth after he sold it to my brother. So that was a really fun treasure to have of him. I would talk to him just about every weekend. We'd laugh and cry about things, and one thing that was really hard for him was his rabbit. When it passed, he had made a tunnel around his couch through his front living room for his rabbit, so it'd go through and we'd video chat while it would run around, and that was really hard when his rabbit went for him, and I was supposed to go see him pretty soon, but he was taken too early. Sorry. And I really miss my Uncle Frank. And I wish that this was different circumstances, that we were all here. And I wish he was here, and I love him very much. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly, and Frank was my uncle. And just little things to say. As a child, I didn't really see him that often, but when I did, I associated him with his really long hair. When he was a child, I was like, gosh, I wish I had that lusciousness. So. But then last year, I came to Fort Bragg for another situation, and it was my grandfather, and I visited him in the hospital. And I'm a very spiritual person, and I'm into crystals. So I went into the hospital room, and I see amethysts, and I see some quartz around the bed, and I go to my mother, and I go, who put these crystals around my grandfather's bed? I was like, this is amazing. This is such good energy. I love it. All of a sudden, I hear to the room, and I see Frank pop his head in and goes, did somebody say crystals? And I said, oh my goodness. He goes, that was me. He goes, oh my goodness, you're into the crystals too. And I was like, yes. He's like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Come to my van. I said, all right. Let me show you what I have. And I said, okay, all right, let's check this out, Uncle Frank. He was like, oh my gosh, yes, Uncle Frank. And I was like, that's who you are. And he goes, that is who I am. And I said, yes. And he's like, yes. We go to the van, and he starts to show me everything. And he tells me about these wonderful priestesses that he has up north. He has 3 of them, and showed me a lot of his cool tools. And I just wanted to share that nice story with you all. But nice to see your faces. Thanks.
Love and light.